a global pandemic crisis, a presidential election. The news cycle never sleeps. We have a very special guest who covers news daily. Carolina Rosario, welcome to OTV.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Welcome,
We're so excited
Carolina.
that you're here. Carolina, with so much that has happened this year, how did members of the press prepare themselves to go out and cover a pandemic, and how are they managing it right now?
Well, I can tell you that to me, and I think for many people, journalists are part of this group of essential workers, right? We have to keep working in the middle of the pandemic and even go to the field, even though those stories might put ourselves at risk of contracting the COVID-19. But it's part of our job. I mean, I can tell you that sometimes I've had the assignment to go to a day with a janitor that is working in the middle of the pandemic, people that have to clean the virus literally. I have been with immigrants that works on the field just to tell their stories and what's the reality of this group of people that are essential workers as well and are putting their lives at risk. But on the other hand, we have been able to also do a lot of work virtually, like those interviews using Zoom, Skype, working from home sometimes, and being able to tell some of the stories, because some stories you can tell them from the office, if you can call it like that. But it has been a challenge. In my case specifically, I have missed a lot the trips, to cover, for example, the elections. I wanted to travel to those key places when elections happened in November 3rd, and I couldn't do it because of the pandemic, because we had to send the people who were in that state trying to avoid traveling and those kind of things. And for us, it has been a challenge, but at the same time, we mix it up with a little bit of virtual interviews and stuff, and also trying to cover those important stories that are located in the area where we live in. In my case, it's Florida. So
Carolina, it's so interesting to hear the diversity behind some of those stories that you mentioned. Everything from the janitor who's working on the cleaning side to, we know, healthcare workers. And we know that Latinos, many of the stories you've covered focus on Latinos. We play a very diverse role in the United States in different industries. What would you say has been that role of Latinos when it comes to the pandemic?
so important, Wadi. Latinos, they conform almost, it's like 18% of the workforce, if you think about the whole country. But when you talk about those specific jobs that are deemed essential, like the poultry centers, the people that works in the fields, in the farms, the people that work in the supermarket, those that are nannies, I mean, those jobs that are essential, we're talking about 30%, 25% of the workforce is Hispanic, to say like that. So definitely the role of our community has been huge in the middle of this pandemic. And the sad thing is that many of them don't have health insurance. Many of them in their workplace have not been offered enough PPE equipment, or PPE, how we call it, to protect themselves. And it's sad that when you see those jobs that are so important for us to live, the person that cleans the areas, the guys and the women that are in the supermarket serving our foods, I mean, and are not getting enough protection. It's kind of sad. And I saw it myself when I covered especially the janitor story that I've talked about before, because I saw how these people were working without receiving the equipment, and they had themselves to buy their own stuff. And they were concerned because when we talk about one person getting infected of COVID in any of those workplaces, probably their family members will get infected as well. And that's why we're seeing those big numbers in the Hispanic community when it comes to COVID-19. So the important thing, I think, as a journalist, is at least being able to expose that, talk about it, send the message, so it's there and people know that we need some changes. And then go after politicians and legislators just to show them the face of the reality and put some pressure, because the whole idea is to keep politicians accountable and responsible for the people they serve.
I think that's one of the coolest parts of your job is you get to shed light for underrepresented communities, cover stories of people who would often go overlooked. On that same note, we were just talking about it on this show, so this is a really important question. What do you think politicians and mainstream media should keep in mind when they're covering our stories of our gente, of our community?
I always say the first thing we have to do when covering stories, if you're asking me as a journalist, is to try to remove those biases that we have ourselves. It could be of anything, political biases, cultural biases of any different culture or region, because us as Hispanic, we also have our own biases. And sorry to repeat the word so much, but it's something that is important when it comes to covering stories. If I'm going to cover, let's say, we're talking about politics and we're going to cover the Cuban community. It might be the prejudice that our Cubans are Republicans, that they think they're anti-democratic, the Democratic Party, because they think it's socialism and stuff like that. If I'm covering that community just thinking like that, to me, I'm making a mistake. I have to be open. I have to listen. Not all Cubans are Republicans. Not all Cubans think the same way. The same happened with Venezuelans. It happens with Puerto Ricans. I'm Puerto Rican. When I'm going to cover a Puerto Rican community, I cannot think they're all Democrats. Many of them are very conservative. So it's just to always be open to listen and try to put something on top of those bias, to put them on a side when you're covering a story. That way you can transmit the clear message of what you were investigating or informing about.
Carolina, how do you deal with the battle of ideas and opinions? How do you keep a healthy balance?
Claudia, that's a great question. And I think it's important for journalists and for any other regular citizens. We're living, I think, the most challenging times when it comes to information, especially because of social media. There's no control. Like, anyone has at the power of their fingertips to publish or say anything they want. And with this past election, we saw how misinformation can really get into people's head, and some people might believe that something that it's not truth, it's truth. And also, and I want to mention this, and when we talk about social media and information, there's something called like those information bubbles, that when you start reading about a particular subject, the algorithms work in a way that they continue to send you stuff related to what you're reading. So if you start reading conspiracy theories or things that are not accurate, you're going to be bombarded with that type of information until the point that you just get obsessed with it, and maybe you start believing it yourself. So the same could happen to a journalist. If you're researching about something, if you just read what the internet is taking you to read, you can get into that information bubble. So what do I recommend? What do I do myself? First, I try to read news from the main sources of information, the traditional media gatekeepers first. I read what's going on, and then I go to the social media, and I do something that is called lateral reading. Basically, every time I read something, it doesn't matter if it's from Fox News, ABC, or any other person that published something, I just automatically check information like in a horizontal way. I don't know how to explain this. Like, I'm reading the article, instead of reading it vertically, I just read a sentence. Okay, what's this? Let me confirm. So I go to another page and check if the information is accurate, or what the other side have to say, or what's the other angle. And in that way, when I'm reading something, I'm just connecting all the dots and trying to get all points of view. That way, I try to not fall into that.
I love that. It's like you're getting different perspectives.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's very important. And I think everybody has to apply that into their lives, not just a journalist. And of course, always think that you don't know enough. Always listen to the other side, and always look for the other side. Never think that, and something, I think every time you read something that exacerbates your emotions in some way, it's a signal that you should check it out or do more research about. Because most of the time, news headlines and information that exacerbates your emotions tends to be biased or not accurate completely. So when we see an article that is completely balanced, it's just, something that is facts, based on facts. So it's not reading those things. It's just being aware of it, understanding how these work, how information work nowadays. And if you understand it, if you're reading something that is an opinion, when you're reading something that it's an article, fact-based, an analyst, that it will be an opinion. If you understand what you're reading, you're going to be fine, because that way you're clear. It's like preparing yourself before consuming information. And I think that's the way we all have to do it. And that's the way I do it. So when it comes to reporting about a subject, I try to be objective the most I can.
Carolina, those are such important points, not only in the context of journalism, but I'm glad you brought in sort of the general audience to that, because I've had those conversations where people really live in this like echo tunnel, right? They just hear the same voices and the same opinions because of those algorithms. So I think it's important to have that conversation with the general population, not just with reporters. So very exciting to hear that. And, you know, I wanted to ask you, you've given us through this conversation a little bit of a behind the scenes look of journalism. What would you say is your advice to Latinos and all individuals who want to go into a job or the industry of media?
Well, I can talk specifically about getting into. I work in an industry in Spanish. I'm Hispanic and I work in Spanish television. I've made some contributions in English, but never with one of those main English American networks. But what I would recommend to anyone is just be prepared and be the best you can be. Don't lay back and wait for that opportunity to come. You gotta prepare yourself as if you were the anchor or the host of the main show of the network where you want to work in. You got to read, you got to know about everything, you got to do what you guys are doing with this amazing show, where you explore the things you like, the subjects that are important to the community in a social media platform, which is an amazing tool that we all have of our power, that is very easy for anyone to do. So it's just prepare yourself and always think that you want to be the person that they need. You don't need them, they need you. So become that person that is essential for their work, because that way when you apply, when they see you, they will know because the people that are in those media outlets, they have plenty of experience. They know who is coming there just because maybe they want to be on TV, or because they just want to start a job because they study something but they really don't love it, or they're not really prepared. So just prepare yourself, and the way to do it is reading, is researching, it's doing this, talking about the things that you like, writing. If you like to write, writing is so important. It doesn't matter if it's television or print, writing is essential. And not many people knows how to write, because in this new world we're living in, for young people, where we're used to social media, Twitter, I mean, not many characters when we write something, quick stuff. Not many people sit down and write a document of 3-4 pages. So if you are capable of doing something like that, you are ahead. So just work to be that person that it's what the networks need. And when it comes to representation in American channels, as I said before, I haven't had the opportunity to work with one of those networks, so I don't know really how that works. But I think we have to be persistent. We have to knock on the door of those stations and let them know that we are there, that we are not just, they need us because we understand the community that we can cover, maybe better than someone that just is not Latino, but also we know about a lot of subjects, not necessarily about just the Latino community. So we need to knock the door and show them what we got.
Love that energy.
We have a
That
lot.
is some good
Love
energy.
it.
Let's knock on that door, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's do
Wow,
it.
Carolina,
And don't be
have
afraid of
brought
the
so much
no's.
advice.
And guys,
Yeah.
don't be afraid of the no. Trust me, all of us have gotten a lot of no's, and this is a hard, tough business. It could be cruel sometimes, trust me. But I'm going to tell you this, something I always say when they tell me no, or when I feel too pushy with my boss or with anyone trying to get something I want, I always tell them, I am a journalist. When I want an interview, I'll work my life to get it. So the same way I'm showing you what I got, I'm going to work my life until you give me that chance. So that's the basic of being a journalist.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carolina. You're amazing. Like I've learned so much just from
Yeah.
listening to you and the moments that you've been here. You've given us so much advice, so much information, so much knowledge. Wadi JP, we're so grateful and so humbled that you came here.
Man, we
We wish you
gotta get her
so much
back
success.
ASAP because
We
I'm
do. You
inspired
have to
right
come
now.
back.
This is the stuff that OTV outside the box. Like, if you're an aspiring journalist, like Carolina is
You
the
gotta
word.
follow
Where can
Carolina.
people? Yeah, you gotta follow her on Instagram because I hear I don't know why. I heard she has a pretty poppin' Facebook page. It's the word on the street.
You can follow me on social media, and you can also send me your stories, the stories that you think are important to tell. And of course, guys, I mean, I'll follow you guys too. You guys are amazing, and thank you for having me. I feel very honored. And anything you guys need, you can shoot me an email or write me via social media, and I'm here to help.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Carolina.
guys.
We wish you continued success. Fam, check her out on Univision Noticias, Primer Impacto. You know where it's at. Go check out Carolina. Hey, we want you
Thank
to know
you.
that your opinion is heard, and we want you to be a part of our Latino thought leaders community. It's pretty simple. You can leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe by hitting the bell to receive notifications of our newest content. In the next few days, we're going to be sharing more content like this and like this.